from our good friend Denise McAllister is what men want to say to women but can't. She's been our guest several times the last few months on the Deace Group Roundtable, and she joins us now to talk about her new book. Good to see you, Denise. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So obvious place to start is, what do we want to say to you, but we cannot? Let's just take that from the top. What is it?
There are a lot of things, and they span from in the home as a father to a lover to in the workplace, what you want to say to female coworkers, and to society at large, how men are made as sexual creatures. So one in the workplace is stop complaining about not getting equal pay when you're not doing the equal work. And if you really want all the same exact numbers of jobs as men, then you need to be doing the dirty, dangerous jobs that we do that you don't seem to want. You just seem to covet the CEO positions. As far as sexuality, listen, ladies, we're attracted to you. We think you're sexy. We have a visual nature. We like to look at you. It doesn't mean we're perverts. It doesn't mean we want to rape you. As Christian men, it doesn't mean we're lusting after other women. We just happen to notice attractive women, and our nature is to be attracted to the physical. When that goes off into the lust territory, then we're talking about different things. But this is how we're made. Don't try to change us and make us into women. You know, as fathers, listen, mom's way is not always right. And sometimes you just need to let me do my job and be a dad. And that may be rough and tough and cause a lot of anxiety in the household, because that's what a man does. He brings children into the realm of responsibility by making them engage with the external world and get out of mommy's soft space of safety. So those are just a few things that men want to say to women. And I unpack those sentiments. I explain why men are saying them, why men have a hard time really communicating that to women today. Even if they are saying them, they're shut down, called sexist, patriarchal, mean guys, and toxic. And I explain why they need to say this and why women need to listen, and what's wrong with immature femininity in our day that we're living because of feminism.
What possessed you? Do you have a deep-seated desire for fewer friends? What?
I have you as a friend.
What possessed you to write? Are you like, you know what, man, my mobile phone is ringing off the hook. I've got no time. Too many people want me to come and speak at their events. I've got to come up with something organic that will limit my calendar so I can just be at home more. And you decided to write this book.
I know. I can't. I have to speak truth. It's just a compulsion that I have, and it gets me into trouble, but it also helps me to just do my duty and my part that I think God has put me on this planet to do. And sometimes that means people won't like me very much, but I'm not here for a popularity contest. That's quite obvious. I'm here because I really believe that God has made men and women a certain way, and that He's designed us for a purpose, and we're not living according to that. And people are suffering. And if you don't like my message, at least listen to it. Maybe we can find some common understanding and common ground to bring some solutions to our broken society and our polarized society. And I just hope people will listen. But, if you don't like what I'm saying, and I'm sure feminists don't, but maybe they'll hear a little bit of truth ringing in their ears and make them change a little bit.
I think what's important about what you're saying is, we live in this culture right now where we just refuse to accept that two things can be true at the same time. Everything has to be, everything except which God has clearly declared as binary. Everything else other than those things has to be binary, right? And so the implication with a book like this is that you're saying that, that must mean men are never wrong, and there's never, because we're children. We can't see any distinctions whatsoever. And what I see in our house, because my wife is going to Liberty right now, and she's about finished with her second master's in biblical counseling. And so these topics come up in our home quite a bit, particularly because I've spent a good deal of time being mentored in men's ministries and mentoring other guys. Is she always wants to give men the benefit of the doubt, and she just crushes women. And I am the other way around. All right. Like I give dudes like no quarter at all. Like I believe everybody has total depravity, but it's capital T when it comes to guys. And I always want to give women the benefit of the doubt. But I think that complementary nature in the way that we see things, I think it actually helps us to kind of maintain a bit of a balanced view on these topics when we discuss them. Does that make any sense to you at all? That I think a woman needed to write this, because if a guy had, it would begin with the assumption that you're imposing your will somehow, or you're this begins from only a nefarious premise.
Well, I think that God has designed us, like you said, complementary. And I also think that he's designed women to speak to each other. And I don't think we do that in a wise way enough. And I think that we don't value older women, and we don't value wisdom in our society when we really should. And I think that, like, you're right. I mean, you're harder on men, and obviously I'm harder on women. I do not give women the benefit of the doubt as much as I should, because I think we should give all people the benefit of the doubt. But I'm particularly critical of women because, like you know men. Mm-hmm. I know women. So while men are over there trying to say, oh, they don't quite mean that, or they really are not as nasty as they seem to be in the workplace. They really have other issues going on. I'm like, no, they're nasty, and there's a reason, and they need to be called out on it and explained even to themselves about why they act that way, and how it causes disruption, and how they don't compete in the same way that men compete, and how that has a strong bearing on how they interact in the workplace, not only just with men, but with other women. And these are conversations that we often don't have. And you're right, men cannot have them. It's hard enough in a society where men are honored and respected. It's really tough in this society where men have been demonized.
I remember a conversation I had with a guy within the last few years that was frustrated with his wife. And the frustration was that let herself go. She's in sweatpants almost every day when I come home from work. I rarely see her in makeup, things of that nature. Sometimes I have to even pick in. I'm the breadwinner. I work all these hours. Sometimes I've got to step in and do the dishes and things of that nature. I mean, what goes on in this home all day long when I'm not here? That I've now got to do her job as well. If I just decided I'm not going to shower or work, everyone would jump on me as a terrible husband and a terrible example. How come this doesn't work both ways? We had several conversations along these lines, him and I did. I'm curious, though, what's your view of that conversation? Because one of the things I've learned from my wife in her counseling is that in any disagreement, it takes two to tango. It might be 50%, 99%, 1%. So whatever percentage of the conflict that you are responsible for, you have to take responsibility for that, right? So I was always telling him, hey, that's your side of the story, but what are you not doing right? Where are you falling short? Where are your expectations too high, or where are you not nurturing enough? But how would you respond to that kind of a dilemma as a woman?
Well, there's always reciprocity in relationships, and everyone has their part to play, but sometimes you really do need to get down to the problem at hand, and everyone look at themselves of how they are contributing, and if they are contributing, because it's not always equal. We always make this assumption that if there's a problem in a marriage, there's equal causes to go around. Not always. There can be the woman's just being, she may be depressed. Let's set aside that she's depressed or something, and that she's just being entitled and not being responsible and taking advantage of her husband. He can have a legitimate complaint while still recognizing that he can only control himself and his own actions and his own responses to that. So there's a lot of counsel that can be given to him just on how to properly respond to the issue and to the problem, and not to make it worse. And so that was a really great counsel to give to him. But counsel also needs to be in confrontation, may need to go to the woman and say, what are you doing? Are you thinking in terms of other-centered? Are you thinking in terms of a helpmate? Are you thinking in terms of how can I love my husband today? And in what ways do I love him? And that's where understanding how a man is. I mean, a man is very, needs his wife and loves when his wife takes care of herself and looks appealing to him. Is that everything to him? No. And does he have a lot of grace when she's not? Yes. But if she's not trying at all, then there's something deeper about her love for him that needs to be addressed. And so I think, if that makes any sense, helping each take control of what only they can control, responding in a way that doesn't make it worse, and responding out of love, but also owning, when there is a real problem and being able to be honest about it. And that's a big problem. I hear that from men a lot. My wife has let herself go. She doesn't really help me. She doesn't really tend to the house. She doesn't seem to care when I come in the door. I seem like an ATM machine. Sex is out the door. I have to beg for it. It humiliates me. There's a lot of complaints. Now, all the guy's doing is just complaining all the time. Again, you need to help him. Well, you have a responsibility to see how you're contributing, but also a big responsibility on how to properly respond.
Right. But if it was just as simple if it was just as simple for guys as if my wife wasn't in sweatpants all the time, I wouldn't cheat on her. Well, Brad Pitt was married to Jennifer Aniston, okay? And he cheated on her. If it was just that simple, it doesn't help. I'm not saying it makes it easier, but it's not quite that simple. One of the things I see a lot when talking to what my wife does, and then some of the things I've been involved in on the receiving and giving end, is I think that men confuse and conflate authority with responsibility, meaning that God has made you you are the authority in the home, but it is because you are primarily responsible. It's not necessarily because you are an authoritarian. I'd see men conflate these two things. And then I think women have been sold a bill of goods that the answer to their wholeness is to become more like men. I think those two lies are knuckle to knuckle against each other right now in American culture.
Well, too often, I think in a lot of our relationships, we think too much in terms of power instead of love. And we attach responsibility to authority structures and to power instead of attaching responsibility to love. And I think the meaning and the purpose that we have in life is to express love and responsibility in our relationships. And that changes everything. That changes the dynamic. And so what happens when you have these power dynamics is you have competition and vying for positions of authority instead of cooperation, instead of complementarianism, and instead of working together out of love and respecting each other as designed, and how God has made you and gifted you to carry out different roles in different positions in life. And I don't talk a lot about roles in my book. I really talk more because I don't think those are as fixed as people like to say that they are. I talk about purpose, and I think when you understand purpose and design, right, then a lot of these subjective things more flow out of that. But you have to get that foundation right, because you could have all your roles, everyone in their little roles traditionally, and yet you not have one big one concept about what your purpose is. I've got about a minute and a half here. Who do you want to read this book that it may not be obvious that they should? Well, I don't know if it's not obvious, but I want women who have bought the bill of goods of feminism to read this book. I want women who are unhappy, who may not have bought the bill of goods, but they have and they don't know it. I want women who are frustrated in their relationships to read this book. And in the same way, I want men to read this book, to be encouraged, and also to gain some insight into how women are and why they're so frustrated with women today, because we have a lot of immature femininity going around. So I really want people who are unhappy to read this book. I'm lonely.
That's a great endorsement. This book is for unhappy people. You're the target audience, which means you, of course, must admit to yourself that you are unhappy. I like that. Denise, how can people get the book?
You can get it online, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. You can order it from your local bookstore. It's out today, so you don't have to pre-order, so you can get it. You can get it on Kindle. It'll be out on audiobook in March.
Outstanding. Well, congratulations on the book. And By all means, share some of the feedback that you get to this from readers on social media, and share it with us. I will be very curious to see how people react to it, because I have a sneaking suspicion a book like this is one of those, if you have to ask, it's about you kind of things. Like when you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, the one that yelps is the one you hit. Know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you're offended by it, then I wrote it about you. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. All right, Denise, good to see you. Take care. God bless.
Thank you.